Brian, please, obviously congratulations on your win tonight. Can you tell us really what you thought the keys were to your win tonight?
Well, the first key was Chris accepting the fight. He didn't have to do that. I'm a lesser-known fighter. He could have waited for a big-level fight. He's a true fighter, true warrior, and he gave me my opportunity, so I have to thank him first. And the other key is I have great coaches, best coaches in the world, and it was angles, it was movement. Chris gets frustrated with fighters who move and don't stand right in front of him, and we knew that he could be attacked in the body, and I think the attacks in the body, the kicks in the body are what really set the knockout.
You mentioned after the fight that you kind of had to wait for a second and kind of catch your breath. Can you talk about that, the mindset? We've seen guys punch themselves out before, and it looked like you were in a situation where that might have possibly happened. Can you talk about kind of what was going through your head at that point?
Yeah, I've been in a little bit more intense situations than that before and kept my calm. So we trained in that, honestly. We would spar, and guys would pretend they were hurt. Just like, when Chris gets hurt, and you can't punch yourself out against him because he's so tough. So, when he was doing that, I knew that he was going to recover. I knew he was going to come back, and I knew if I got overzealous, he would put me on my butt. So, I had to be a little careful.
Should you have gone down to 185 sooner?
Absolutely, but I had no experience cutting weight at the time, so I was kind of in denial to do so until the Phil Davis fight, and I felt another wrestler, a national champion wrestler on top of me, and realized, especially that day, I weighed in, the pre-weigh-in, I was already 204. I didn't cut any weight for that fight, and as it turned out, one of my closest friends for years, active duty staff sergeant George Lockhart in the Marine Corps, he handles my nutrition and my weight cut. He's the best in the business, and he's who gets me down to 186 on the dot. Tonight I weighed 205 in the octagon with full of energy. He's the best in the business, and he's been one of my closest friends forever. So finding him was part of the key. And yeah, absolutely, I should have gone down sooner, but you need those losses to grow.
You were the first UFC fighter to ever use the word golly inside the octagon.
Thank you.
Clay, please.
Talking about the main event, I was wondering if you could give us your thought when you were watching that sequence. And it's kind of like your fight where Gray was pummeling Frankie like that. It was kind of like the way you were doing with Chris, and kind of talk about the fact of Frankie being able to keep his wits about him and survive that.
That fight was amazing. If I was shaking my head, it had absolutely nothing to do with that fight. Two guys like Frankie and Gray are amazing. It's just unfortunate. I wish there was a way that they could have finished the fight, whether it be an extra round, and neither of those guys wanted to end in a draw. They would have preferred to lose justifiably than end in a draw. I'd like to see where there's something where there can be an extra, one final round done to declare a winner and declare, so there's an undisputed champ, obviously.
And a lot of people at ringside thought the fight should have been stopped, that the referee wasn't doing his job in that first round. I mean, you're in there and seeing it, you know what the circumstances are. Did you feel the referee in the main event did the right job?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a title fight. And, I tell the referees come to the dressing room to talk to us before we fight, the exact ref that you're going to have. And I always tell my ref, please don't stop it early. Let me work. If I'm in a position of trouble and, I'm getting pummeled on, please, let me work, give me warnings, don't stop the fight. And I think they did the right thing. And, you don't do that to a champion. And it's amazing that they were still going as well as they did.
For Brian, in the ring you mentioned the name of one of your friends who passed away recently. And what's the story behind that, and how close were you? And how did that give you added motivation going into this fight?
Absolutely, it did. Garrett Meisner was one of my Marines with India Company, 3rd Battalion, 2nd Marines during my second deployment to Iraq. And then when I left that unit, during my last year before I got out of the Marine Corps, Garrett would come to my martial arts class that I taught for Marines with post-traumatic stress, using martial arts to cope with some of the anxiety and some of the anger that they had. He was one of the most professional Marines I've ever met. I believe he volunteered to go to 2nd Battalion, 9th Marines to go to Afghanistan and deploy again. He could have gone to a billet where he would have been an instructor and stayed here in America for 4 years, but he went to deploy again. I think this was his 3rd or 4th deployment to combat. And it literally just happened this week. I don't know the details. I know it was an improvised explosive device that killed him. And
Frankie.
It's tough.
Go ahead. Because you had such a dominant performance tonight against a really tough opponent, in Chris Leben. Where would you like to see yourself go from here? Obviously, it is up to the UFC, but Chris Leben was a remarkably tough opponent. And where would you like to see yourself go after dominating him so much tonight?
Well, you know, I'm in this to fight the best. I don't want any question marks left behind when my career or my time in the sport is over. And so whoever I need to fight to be in the top 10 in the world is who I want to fight next. That's my number one goal for 2011, is to be a top 10 middleweight in the world and work my way towards a title shot. So whoever the UFC feels that is, let's do it. You know, I hope it's not a wrestler. I hope I've at least, you know, fulfilled my quota of them for at least one more fight, and then we'll go back to them. But I'll be back in the gym in 3 days and working on all my game, preparing for whoever they give me.
Just going off the question where they were asking if there's anyone you'd like to call out. I know you were impressively humble when you won against Leben, but you did ask for Leben. Is there anyone in your head right now that you want next?
You know, this is with the utmost respect. Again, like Chris Leben, I'm fighting in a house that guys like Chris Leben and Vanderlei Silva built. You know, guys like Frankie and Gray, those kind of fights. I think I'd like to fight Vanderlei next. He's been a guy who I've watched for years before I ever put a glove on. I mean, he's amazing, and I want to. And he's as tough as they come. He's as good as they come. He's, you know, multiple weight champion. I think I'd like to fight him next, but I'll be prepared for anybody.